Welcome to past pointer number 3, writing the UFE, the do's and the don'ts. In this past pointer, we'd like to share with you what good candidates on the UFE are doing to pass. In the next past pointer, we'll take a look at some of the things that unsuccessful candidates do, which unfortunately sometimes prevents them from passing the UFE. We've developed these insights by speaking with a number of our professional UFE markers, who in addition to marking practice exams for pass, also have extensive experience marking the real UFE. We asked these markers to come up with what they consider to be the top 10 factors that distinguish the passing candidate. Nobody knows better than a real UFE marker what the UFE is looking for in a passing response. Unlike lettermen, I'm not going to attempt to put the points in a descending or ascending order, as all 10 points are equally important. Let's take a look at the first point. Attempt each direct required. The way the UFE is marked, you cannot afford to only attack the requireds that you're comfortable with and leave out those that you're not good at. Even though that will leave you more time to deal with those requireds that you excel at, excelling in those requireds will not ultimately make up for getting not addressed on the indicators for the requireds you left out. As Ira explained in pointer number 2, which deals with how the UFE is marked, you get 0 points for an indicator that is not addressed. You're much better off attacking each required, even though you may be somewhat weak on a particular required. Even if you don't get competent on that required, you may still get reaching competent, pick up some points, and end up with a better result on the UFE. Let's move on to the next point. Address major issues and don't spend too much time on minor ones. Ranking on the UFE is very critical. Some issues allow for the opportunity to achieve significant depth and warrant a lot of time. Other issues are very minor, and for those issues you cannot afford to waste a lot of time. Time is a precious commodity on the UFE, and therefore you must make optimal use of your time. Properly play the role and learn to adapt to the various roles that can come up on the UFE. You may be asked to play a myriad of roles on the UFE. For example, you may be a consultant, an auditor, a controller, a business advisor. I could go on and on. The question will be quite clear with regard to the role. What is important is for you to remember the role and address the points that someone in that role would be expected to address. The ideal response will flow from the role. For example, a controller would be expected to address different points than, say, an external auditor. Provide overall conclusions, especially when discussing alternatives. In some UFE cases, you will be dealing with issues where there is room for alternatives. In such cases, there may be no right answer. Nevertheless, it'll be important to come to a conclusion. There isn't going to be a right or a wrong conclusion. Any reasonable conclusion that flows from your analysis will be just fine. The only thing to do is to fail to conclude. That would be wrong because you're leaving things hanging. Attempt a balanced response. Attempting a balanced response is critical, in particular when you're playing a business advisory role and analyzing a business decision. Try not to be the student who sees everything with rose-colored glasses and only discusses the positive. Even worse, don't be the doom and gloom student who can only see the negative. Rather, provide a balanced response in which you have both positive and negative points. Similar to real life, for most business opportunities, there will be risks and opportunities. There will be pros and cons. Provide quantitative calculations that are reasonably well done, but not perfect. Due to time constraints, it is not humanly possible to achieve perfection on the quants. If you try, you will not succeed, and will waste a lot of time to the detriment of the qualitative. What you should do is aim for an adequate response in which you go after major adjustments that will significantly impact the bottom line rather than every last small adjustment. Apply adequate technical knowledge of IFRS and ASPE when dealing with accounting issues. On the UFE, you need a good foundation when it comes to the technical for accounting. You need to be equally comfortable with both ASPE and IFRS. But the challenge is to apply that knowledge effectively. Don't tell the marker everything you know about revenue rec. Rather, apply that knowledge. This may involve assisting the client to come up with an optimal revenue rec policy, or it may involve critiquing an existing policy. Properly address moderately difficult accounting issues with a discussion of alternatives where relevant. Spend minimal time on minor issues. This point builds on an earlier point in the previous slide, but applies specifically to financial accounting. When dealing with financial accounting issues, you may have some issues in which you are given a lot of information to work with, and the issue may involve a great deal of judgment. That type of issue is major, and a strong candidate would spend a lot of time on it. On the other hand, when you're dealing with a black and white issue, and there's minimal information, It would be a big mistake to spend a lot of time on that issue. Write in an overall clear manner. It's in your best interest to write a response that's well organized and easy to follow. Stronger candidates make good use of subheadings to keep organized and give some thought to the sequence of the paper before they start writing to ensure that it flows logically. If the market can easily follow your response, you're likely to do a lot better. Finally, stay away from templates. Templates are lists of points that you would jot down whenever a particular scenario comes up on the UFE. On the old UFE, these templates were effective, but today they are not. The points that you need to address must be tailored to the specific case that you're writing. Over the course of studying for the UFE, I'm sure that you'll be writing many practice cases. I really hope that as you write these practice cases, you'll keep these points in mind. Initially, you may have to consciously remember them, but I'm confident that by consistently applying these points, they will fairly quickly become second nature to you, and then you'll be well on your way to becoming a successful UFE writer. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. We'd love to hear from you. We'd like to know what you liked, what you didn't like, and what additional pointers you think would be useful to you. We're planning to add a new pointer on the don'ts, which is what you should avoid when you write the UFE, quite shortly. In the meantime, just remember that passing the UFE is very doable. If you work diligently, pay attention to the do's we talked about today, you certainly can pass. See you at the next pointer.